So, you know, whenever I'm not drawing and coloring and stressing out about things, I'm usually trying to find ways to teach students and help people out, like today. Represented hers creativity thing, that was great. Teaching the kids about Tarada Katsuya, right? Oh, so good. Look, this is a classroom. Look how high-tech these tables are. And yeah, there's some product placement, you know, Coca-Cola. But that's my wife doing a class on her perspective of creativity. Really smart. You can tell they're on best behavior, but you know,
it's hard to gauge if they're interested or they're like bored with our stuff. But at the end, they share like really sweet words, and it's really touching.
Yeah, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to help them get into this world in a proper creative way. But yeah, so far so good. I'm tired. So this image here was the one that got accepted by KYCC, and this is my last video. I showed you how I came up with it and drew this one out. So if you kind of like my art, please make sure that you click the like button, subscribe, and the notification bell. All right, let's get started. So when I design something, I usually go through a few sketches. Here was the very first one. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a hand digging through soil, kind of pulling out this tree or planting the tree. And in that process of me designing this and trying to create this image, I actually looked up some murals online, and there was quite a few of these images out there, and I felt, oh man, this is a little basic, and I want to do something very creative and interesting. KYCC wanted something that was showcasing this, and if you don't know what KYCC it is Korean Youth and Community Center. And this was the original drawing before I added the final touches of the cartoon, you know, book look, and it has a lot of detail there. It's fun. It's just, I think I prefer this design a little bit better, and that's what I came up with here. It was simplified, a little bit more creative, and it felt like it would pop more with the greens and the oranges and the purples. Another design here. This was actually before this. I wanted to have these clear people flying into the city, bringing in trees, kind of saying that's necessary. Now you can see I drew a little pug to the far right, and that was cute. And then I was like, you know what, let me just play with some other liquid designs. So this drawing here is something I came up last night, late at night, and I was just free drawing, you know? And I actually like this a lot. The vision I have for it is more of a dark blue fading in the back, kind of like almost going into a black, right? And then the stars would be up here in the second layer. And then there would be these two hands. Her hand would be up here holding a tree, pushing it into the ground. And this one over here, like lifting trees, like it's coming to help out. Kind of as if the ground level was at her face, as if she's this giant coming out of the ground, or she's just coming out of the ground, but she's actually a giant, and she's holding these trees in her hands, you know, and she's planting them into the city, kind of thing. So I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine now, but I'm gonna continue drawing. We're just gonna see where it goes and how I can do it. But that's the thing. I didn't, you know, the other one I really like. I like the children's book look of the last mural design. I think it's gonna be very fun for the city to kind of have. But I would love to push my boundaries on skill and test my skills as well as my creativity with something like this. Would be more, I think it would be very fun. It would still last. It's a little bit more more art instead of a mural that has to kind of promote the city. Or we need, you know, I don't know. It could work, I'm sure it could work, but I think I'm gonna go with this one. I'm gonna try to push for this one to be designed, because this way I can have, you know, if in which the, let's see, I guess the wall would be about here. And where's my ruler? Why am I doing this without a ruler? Okay, let's do this. So I would say the wall, I would want it about yay long, right? And here would be the sidewalk, I imagine. Something like that. And then you have the curb. And this wall would probably actually end right about here. That looks about 16 foot, you know? And then I would have to come down And I'll be missing a little bit. I think there'll be a little bit more over here on this side that I'll be missing, but and possibly even some on this side. But I really am focusing on the drawing more so right now than anything else, because I'm playing with the perspective here that I'm kind of going. I want to say something like that. And, oh man, I didn't keep that. Oops, something like that. And that's not right. But of course, why would I do that? Procedures. That's why we do things that we are taught. So now I'm just going to kind of correct these lines and make sure that they're right. And yeah, I think this is a lot better. But you get the perspective now. And I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% because I'm going to change a little bit of it in Procreate. Not everything's going to. I didn't measure this 100% accurately, but Procreate's going to fix all those problems. So we get rid of these hard lines just to see a little bit more transparent. Okay. So that one can just kind of go away for the most part. But the hand is about the size of half your face, right? We're looking at a hand about here. Thumb, knuckle, pinky. I'm just putting the form. I'm gonna go through and take a photograph of my hand, kind of, so I can get the shading and the values right. And this is just concept, so I'm probably going to take photographs of the flowers because I need a better color understanding of what I'm going to paint. I want this to be more realistic. One children's book, one realistic, right? And if they go with this, you know, it'll look on point. The light source, though, is going to be from up here. This is where the sun is at, and because it's up here, a lot of her side is going to be, it's coming more of an angle towards, from behind her. So there's more shadow and shading here, but of course it's not going to be fully dark because it's the sun. It's going to be bouncing off of everything, so she's going to be pretty well lit up anyways. But the trick here is I want to make it at night. So then you're like, what? Well, the thing is, because I don't have any street lights or anything like this in the image, I guess it's just going to have to be a super strong moon. So the moon, bright and really, but gives the effect that it's like a light, like the sun. But then it fades into the night, where it's up here is going to be night, because I have the second layer that is like this. So we have this one, and we have this tree I want her to be planting, and it's going to cover up. I'll erase a little bit of this to fit it in. In fact, maybe not. Maybe I will just scoot it over, and then in post, because the cool thing is that I'm going to have to scan this image in, right? And I could draw it a little bit further over, or expand it and grow it and move it around to the better proportions that I would like on both of these, and then, you know, be able to change it around. But if I draw it on top, then I have to redraw it in the program and all that stuff, and that's fine. But I've learned these are little tricks that you can do to help yourself out. And now I'm just going to kind of draw and sketch and outline everything that I need to get this drawing finished with my mechanical pencil. And yeah, I took a photo of my hand, which was kind of tough, but I did this so I can make it black and white and kind of get the angle correct and kind of replicate it, which is what I do for a lot of things. I set it aside and then I draw what I see. But first I want to kind of put the buildings into the scene so I can imagine what the hand would be doing to the buildings, and then the tree, because I kind of want Mother Earth to be like slamming this tree down and busting all the cities and all the concrete out of the way. And this is kind of a way I do it. I put the surrounding images first and then the hand. But yeah, her right hand's gonna go there, the left hand's gonna go a little bit further back, so it's gonna be a little bit smaller, but further back to the right of this scene here. As you can see, some of the buildings are crashing and the roads are being warped. It's kind of fun. So one of the great things about doing mural drawings is that you can just be super creative. I mean, even creative with any drawing, but murals are, I don't know, just kind of wild. But there's not going to be too much detail on the buildings. There's going to be details more on the trees and the leaves, because I want that to be the main focus of the art piece when people are walking by. Now, this original drawing was going to be at night, but you'll see, I changed that all up. So once I did all that, this left side, I'm going to go in and shade, because the original idea was to have the nighttime, her coming out at night, kind of planting these trees at night and having these stars. And so I'm going to shade all this in, just kind of so I can know where to put all the dark purples and blues for this scene. And it also is another reason to help it pop. Once I'm done, I'm going to take a photo, I'm going to implant it on Procreate, cut it up to fit the wall size the best I can, and now I'm going to make a new layer and trace on top with the script tool. The technical pen, and using black. So up here I'm going to choose a size which I think is correct, and I usually start with the eyes. It's always fun. And that's too thick. Let's go with a smaller. That's not too small. Okay, so the cool thing about the Procreate is you can choose a size and press the plus button, and it'll add that size so you'll always remember it. I like to choose 2 or 3. Small, medium, large, so I can just go back and forth between those however I need to use them. So I'll go a little bit higher, maybe down a little bit lower, and maybe a little bit lower than that would be good. Still a little too thick for my taste. There we go, 14% is good. Add that. Now I can just go back and forth between those two. Okay. And I like to start with the eyes because the eyes make me feel like if I get the eyes done and the nose done, I feel like I've made a lot of progress. And encouraging myself to continue drawing is a battle uphill that I always have to do, because I can easily get distracted and feel like, oh man, this is a bad idea or something. But I just need to really stay focused, and once it's done, once you get all these lines out, it looks good and it builds a lot of confidence. So I'm going to start there and then start working my way outwards with the flowers. I think if I would have started with the flower, I would have just given up. But now that everything's kind of outlined, it looks good, almost done with all these leaves and stuff, it's time to start coloring this thing. As you can see, I've already colored most of it because I forgot to record it. But I'm just going to go in here and show you what I did for the process. So this is her with the purples and the vibrant colors of green and purple. And then right here you can see the leaves and how they're shaded. I'm going to show you how I shade. When I shade, I don't actually take the brush and start choosing every color and shading it. What I'll do is I'll do a rough idea of the shading, and then I'll go in with the I'm showing you the round brush. This is a really good shading brush as well, but the script brush is what I use pretty much 90% of the time, because it leaves really strong marks that I feel like I can produce with a spray can. So first off, let's color it with the green. You can choose any green or any brightness or value. I like to start with the brightest colors sometimes and then move to the darks, because it kind of keeps my mind focused on where the shadows are coming from. But it's really up to you and your technique. So I choose a darker green, and then I'm going to come in here and just start filling it in and putting in places where I think light may hit, and where the light wouldn't be. When I get to a certain darkness, I start to take into account the colors around it. For example, the purple, the flower, and more of those cooler colors. So instead of staying in that green when I choose it, I'm actually going to slide it over towards a blue. That way I get a little bit more of a cooler green, even though it's darker. And then filling in the shadows with that. Now once I have this done, some of this green placed in different places, this is where the magic really happens in my shading, is that I'll go in here and choose the Smudge tool, right there, that little finger. And then I'm going to use the script tool. The round brush does it really soft, but I'll show you that in a second. The script tool here though, it does a really cool blending effect where I can drag at different pressures and make this thing feel like it makes the colors blend with a little bit more of a harsher tip, and yeah, I just like the style of it. I don't know why I like it, but definitely it's up to your choice of which one you like. The round brush is much softer. You can see here it's just straight up blending it all the way through, and this is really good when you, I think I use that for her face a little bit, because the face and skin tones may be blended, they're not so harsh, but leaves can play with the hard lines a lot more and look really cool. And I did this for pretty much most of the drawing. So after that, I showed you that, I'm going to go in here and actually do the tree. I'm going to use the same exact technique. I'm going to make a new layer, I'm going to color this all in green for the leaves, and then fill it all in with different colors of green. Okay. Cool trick is you click it, choose alpha lock, and that way anything that's on that layer that's colored or whatever will be the only thing that's affected when you draw. It will not affect anything else, so you don't have to worry. And I'll just go in here and just play and have fun. Start drawing green everywhere I think the light might be hitting it, and you don't have to be too accurate, because once you start using the smudge tool, it's gonna change the colors of green, and it's gonna, you can build your depth with it. Now that I'm going to color in all this brighter colored greens and trying to build depth into this piece, you can see that I'm just very sloppy because it doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of giving a rough idea of it. When I use the smudge tool, that's when I'll be more precise. Okay, so once you find out that and you get your values all correct, and you put your greens in there, now you can go in to get the smudge tool and choose the script tool again. Don't choose the brush tool, because this is where you're going to need those sharp movements and those pressures to build leaves. And you're going to take those greens and kind of push them into each leaf and each little movement. It takes a while, but the end result is really pretty. It's really nice. And I haven't tried this with spray cans yet, but I imagine it's pretty tough. But either way, I like the look of this. It brings a lot of depth to my art, and it's better than drawing on Procreate with the brush, any kind of painting it on instead of smudging. And this is the final result of that. You've got something with different greens and different values in that tree. And I use that for the bushes down here around the buildings. I use it for the leaves even. Yeah, you can see I put it in the bushes, and this is fun because you can I did this as darks to lights, and then I just started flicking outwards, going up the layers, and it fans out. Now that I even did it for the flower, but I really didn't have to do much for the flower because the flower would just be a couple different shades. Now for the flower, I didn't really want, this is where I changed my mind and wanted it to be a very hot scene. So I changed this to an orange color, orangish, burnt orange, maybe a red orange, don't know. But I like the color of it because it's the opposite. And here, I just want to show you, when you choose the disc, a cool way of making your painting pop is choosing opposite colors. So for the orange, the opposite would be green, and you can see that the green right there is touching the orange, the reds, right? And then for the purples, you would have the same. It's gonna be like the yellows, yellow greens. And this is the technique that you want to practice when you're trying to make a vibrant, colorful image, is that if the colors are opposite beside each other, they tend to seem to pop a lot. Now, I'm not saying that you have to follow this all the way through, but this is the technique that I've used to make my images and paintings kind of have a vibrancy to them but I don't go overboard by using every single color. I usually only choose a couple. Now for the yellow here, it's going to be like this purple, so you can see it's touching the purple flower. And yeah, so I only have 4 of the colors that I like to use: purple, yellow, and green and red. I didn't go too much into blues, and I mean that's pretty much it. That's all you really need to know. I made you watch this whole video just to find out that one technique, but you can see it being played out here. Now I made the background orange and yellow, which I'll show you how I made separation between them, and cool little techniques to kind of build putting color in places to help out everything else. Like here I chose a yellow because there's a yellow flower below her eye, as well as a purple one. and I'm going to just use that as a reflection. And this kind of helps the image not be dull in each area, so where you're moving from an image and it just stays one color. No, you want to throw in the colors every once in a while, and if it doesn't have it, so that way it kind of balances out the whole image. Okay, so now that I have that done, I'm going to go in here to this flower with the, the center of this fuchsia pink color, and I'm going to just start adding different colors of orange and yellow to kind of balance it out, because it's protected by a lot of cool colors around it. I want this to feel hot, and plus the sun's coming from the top right, so I want that light to be hitting from that angle. But yeah, this is just to build depth in the center, and then spread these colors around the image. And then, yeah, just go with however many you want. I never really go beyond 4 shading colors. But yeah, now that brings life to that center piece of that flower. Yeah, after I got done with this, I think it's about time to go in here and fix this background. And then you can see I have these vines that I made, and I really don't want that, so I'm going to take the smudge tool, and I'm just going to kind of cover them all by pulling these colors into them. Now I could just use the brush, any kind of brush tool, to paint it in, but I find that leaves a lot of harsh marks on the painting, which are just more time consuming to cover up. So I just use the smudge tool a lot to kind of fix color issues, and as you can see, it leaves some marks, but it's the kind of marks that I need to make this feel like the sun is there, or some kind of hot spot is kind of radiating from this, maybe like a star is just burning. But the sun, that's where the sun's originally meant to come from. Now the image doesn't have too much of the sun showing too much shade, but as much as I wanted to, I put the shade coming from the top right. I kept that in my mind most of the time. Now I did add a couple more suns into it, more light sources from behind her, and there is even a subtle one to the left. But this is the main one, because this will build shadow from her face and some of the other objects and leaves. But using the same smudge tool, I go in here and just paint those in and then smudge it in, so that way it feels like there's these lines and it's not perfectly smooth. And here I'm trying to darken the colors, but I realize I'm like, it blends in with the flower. We gotta get rid of that. I need to separate it. So I use the green outline, see if that would work, and then I use the Gaussian blur to see if that would help it, but it did not. So I realized, let's just use yellow. Let's just brighten her up. Let's have a light source coming from behind this place, even rays kind of making this thing feel really hot, and she has to plant these trees. That's exactly what I did. I put those in there, and then I made these rays. And now it feels, it's like she's coming out of somewhere, she's super special, and then the background is hot. After I'm done with that, I'm going to take the brush tool, which is the technical brush, and then I'm going to go and outline around the tree to fill in all these, to fill it in. But that's roughly the technique. I think you can play with it and see what really works best for you. I think this is actually a better idea than the nighttime version. So here I'm actually going to use the overlay transparency, so I can see the bricks and see what it would look like if I actually did paint this. But this is too dull, and a trick to actually brighten this up to make it feel a little bit more accurate is to duplicate and then drop the opacity down like to half or something, and then that would kind of, you can still see the bricks, but there's a lot more vibrancy to the image. But yeah, you can see that, and that's pretty much what it is, everyone. I like this better than the nighttime. You can be the judge. This is the night one. It's very cool, but it doesn't really translate over to a necessity for trees. It just translates into this woman crashing into the city planting trees and vines growing in the background. I think now I'm just going to kind of clean up the images so I can export them and kind of compare them. I go in here and just kind of use I use this the script brush a lot and then to clean up everything. But yeah, but that's it. That is the technique. I hope you guys like this. If you did, please click the like button and the notification button so you can stay up to date with all my art. And yeah, tell me what you think and if you like it and which one you like better. And I hope to see y'all again.